Warning: every story hides a chilling twist that will leave you questioning reality, whether fact or fiction. Secrets unravel, mysteries deepen, and nothing is as it seems. Stay until the very last second to uncover the truth.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Since I was a child, my life has been haunted by nightmares. Not just ordinary bad dreams, but terrifying encounters with demonic entities that felt disturbingly real. They chased me, tormented me, and left scars on my soul. This is the story of how they shaped my life and how I found my way back to the light. The haunting beginnings. As far back as I can remember, my nights were plagued with horrors. I was just a child, too young to even understand what fear truly meant. Yet I lived it every single night. In my dreams, I would find myself running endlessly, chased by grotesque figures, shadowy creatures with distorted faces, eyes glowing like embers. They weren't just dreams. They felt too vivid, too personal. I told my grandmother about them. She was my guardian, the one who raised me, and she was the only one I trusted with my fears. Her response was strange. Instead of brushing off my stories, she listened intently, her face pale and troubled. She asked me to draw what I saw, and I did. Crude sketches of monstrous forms filled the pages, but I could tell from her reaction that she recognized them. She never told me why. As the years went by, the nightmares persisted. I thought I would grow out of them, but they became more intense. I felt watched even when I was awake. There were moments when the air around me felt heavy, suffocating, as if something unseen was always near. A shared nightmare. When I was 10, my grandmother was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. Watching her deteriorate was one of the hardest things I've ever endured. But what shook me to my core were the things she began to say during her final days. She started seeing things, the same shadowy figures I had described in my dreams. She spoke of their presence in her room, of how they stood at the foot of her bed, waiting. She would cry out in the middle of the night, begging them to leave her alone. It was as if my nightmares had spilled into reality, and she was now trapped in them. After she passed, the weight of grief crushed me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't function. But instead of trying to understand what was happening, I chose to bury it all. I stopped believing in the paranormal, convincing myself it was all a fabrication of my young, traumatized mind. I turned to science, desperate for logical explanations. Trauma, grief, stress, these were easier to accept than the idea that something truly otherworldly was haunting my family. Years of struggle. Life moved on, but the shadows never truly left me. I grew up, pursued my passion for art, and traveled to different parts of the world to study. But no matter where I went or what I did, there was always a sense of resistance, like an invisible wall blocking my path. Every time my career seemed ready to take off, something catastrophic would happen. A sudden accident, an unexpected illness in the family, financial setbacks. It was as if the universe was conspiring against me. I told myself it was just bad luck. But deep down, I began to wonder, was something holding me back? By 2022, I had reached my breaking point. My career was in shambles. I was drowning in debt, and I felt utterly hopeless. I couldn't see a way forward. A moment of grace. That year, I was invited to perform in a concert featuring Mahler's Symphony No. 2, Resurrection. It was a beautiful piece, one that spoke of death and rebirth, of finding hope in the darkest of times. I went into that performance feeling numb, broken, but something extraordinary happened during the concert. As I sang, a warmth spread through my chest, a gentle, glowing sensation that I had never felt before. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I couldn't stop them from falling. For the first time in years, I felt alive. It was as if a higher power was reaching out to me, offering a lifeline. In that moment, I silently prayed, "If you're there, help me. I can't do this alone anymore." The meeting that changed everything. 2 days later, I performed the same concert again. Afterward, I ran into an old friend, someone I hadn't seen in years. He greeted me warmly and said, "We should catch up. Let's make some music together." I agreed, desperate for any distraction from my struggles. When I visited his home, he told me something that sent chills down my spine. "I have a mission to complete with you. You've been carrying something dark with you for a long time, and it's time to let it go." I stared at him, speechless. How could he know? I hadn't spoken about my nightmares or the heaviness. He asked me to stand by the window. He lit a white candle and began reciting prayers in a language I didn't recognize. I closed my eyes, unsure of what to expect. Then it happened. My body began to move on its own, jerking violently, as if something inside me was resisting his prayers. I felt an overwhelming pressure, as though something dark and ancient was being forced out of me. Suddenly, I saw it, a shadow passing before me, even though my eyes were closed. It was fleeting, but unmistakable. When it was over, my friend looked at me and said, "It's done. You'll feel tired for a while, but you're free now. Avoid alcohol for a week and get some rest." A new beginning. That night, I could barely make it home. Exhaustion weighed on me like a lead blanket, and the next day, I cried uncontrollably. It was as if years of pent-up pain were being released all at once. But then, things began to change. Slowly at first, but undeniably. I was offered a scholarship to continue my studies, An opera I had been working on for years was finally premiered at my country's National Theater. I met the love of my life, got married, and found financial stability for the first time in years. The darkness that had shadowed me for so long was gone. My life, once defined by struggle and despair, was now filled with light and joy. Closing scene. The screen fades to black, with soft, hopeful music playing in the background. The narrator's voice concludes, "Sometimes, the things we can't see shape our lives in ways we can't understand. But no matter how dark it gets, there's always a way back to the light." This was my story. What's yours? Ending hook. Do you believe in forces beyond our understanding? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more true stories of the unexplained.